What's up, y'all? You're now listening to the What Now podcast. I'm Dr. Spencer Dupre, owner of Empower Chiropractic.
And I am Dr. Zach Thompson, owner of Within Chiropractic. The purpose of this podcast is to document and share the experiences of two young business owners as we open our own brick and mortar chiropractic practices. Join along as we discuss all of our wins, our losses, insights, and the many, many lessons we learned.
As a disclaimer, none of this is ever intended to be medical, legal, or financial advice.
What is up, y'all? Dr. Zach here, back with Dr. Spencer on the What Now podcast. We're back for episode 2. Holy cow, we're back in the seats, a little more comfortable. Coffee is not tingling quite as much today. And we're super, super excited to dive into our second topic, expanding on really what we talked about towards the end of last week's episode. And what we're going to dive into today is the why behind our what. And so it's said over and over again, but your purpose, your overarching why is what will fuel your daily grind. It's what will carry you on long days. It's what will get you through times of, times of doubt, times of confusion, is really staying mission and purpose focused. And so we're going to dive super deep into that. Dr. Spencer, what do you got for us today?
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here again. This has really been fun for me. Just want to say thanks to everybody who, sent direct messages and commented on the podcast. Thanks for everybody who listened. It was just really nice to see. It's pretty surprising to figure out how many people are actually listening. So just thank you so much for all that. A big common theme that I heard like in the comments about the show was how people appreciated our authenticity and our vulnerability. And that's really kind of what we're here to do. We're not here to say like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. We're really here just to talk to each other and talk to you guys about what we're doing in the day-to-day. And that's what we're going into today is the why behind our what and what we're going through and why we do things day-to-day. I think one of the biggest business influences that I've been listening to is Alex Hormozi. I listen to his podcast, The Game, all the time, and I just read his book, $100 Million Offers, and all that stuff is incredibly valuable. And one of the things that that really hit me in one of his podcasts that I heard is that a lot of people fail in business not because they don't have what it takes. It's just that they lack the commitment and the consistency to keep going. And then we also heard Ed Milet kind of talk a little bit at Parker seminars about that, and that was phenomenal. And, I always say the only math problem that I know is consistency over time equals change, right? What you do consistently over how much time that you put is really how you make a change. When talking about chiropractic to people who are new to it, that's one of the things that I first go into with them because they always talk about like, why don't I get results day one or why am I not exactly where I want to be day one? And Alex Hormozi talks a lot about like, don't make the goal of what you're doing. Don't make a number, don't make a benchmark of performance the goal of what you do. Make just showing up what you do every single day the goal, because then if you just show up and try your best, then every day is a win. And from winning every single day is how you achieve these like super high goals of, doing big numbers, seeing a lot of people, having a large office, right? If that's your goal, then what happens when you get there?
Very, very quick to burn out, I would assume. And that's huge. Consistency over time does equal change. You see it in the gym, you see it, with any goal you set out on, that's always going to be the overarching theme. I think Spencer's selling himself short. I bet you if we threw Pythagorean's theorem in front of him, he'd be able to figure out a squared plus b squared equals c squared. But this isn't a math podcast. This isn't. We're not going to go down that route. We don't want to go back to high school. But yeah, let's dive into our driving whys. Spencer, I know we obviously know each other on a personal level, and so I do know your why as to what gets you up in the morning. I think it'd be great for our listeners to really hear that side of your story.
Yeah. So this is a story that I've told, hundreds and hundreds of times to everyone. Growing up, it was kind of something that I wasn't really comfortable sharing because I felt like I didn't want people's pity. I didn't want to share like where I came from or the things that happened in my life, because like I didn't want people to be like, oh man, that really sucks, and then feel bad for me, and I didn't want people to be interested in my story out of pity. But now, telling it so many times, it's really something to be proud of, and it's really something that kind of molded me and who I was, and I'm very thankful for it. So it starts back in 2001. So my mom was in a horrific car wreck that paralyzed her. She was ejected from the front windshield and then air evac to the hospital, where they had to perform like emergency surgery because she had significant damage in her spine, especially at her spinal cord at the levels of L3, L4. My very first memory ever as a child is like wearing a cowboy hat, being carried into the hospital post-op room by my grandma to see my mom in the hospital bed. That's the very first thing I could ever remember. And I never knew why. Like I really, that really stuck with me like that. But I'm very grateful to have that memory. So anyway, growing up, my mom was obviously in a wheelchair after that. And she was given a diagnosis by the doctors that she was never going to walk again. And so being a chiropractor who deals in like holistic health care and like Eastern medicine versus like Western medicine, like I'll never, talk bad about the Western paradigm in a sense, because really they saved my mom's life. And so a really huge thank you to those doctors who were able to, save my mom. But they also at the same time wrote her off and said like, hey, you're never going to walk again. And my mom was determined to get out of the wheelchair and walk. And, it only takes one person to instill belief in you. My mom said that she went to, countless doctors, countless physical therapists, countless, everybody under the sun. And all of them said like it was impossible, except for this one guy who's a PT in our hometown across from a Sonic. And I remember sitting at that Sonic eating like French fries or something with my grandma every single week.
Chili cheese dog.
Yeah. But really sitting at that Sonic every single week while my mom was in physical therapy with my grandma. And my mom got out of that chair and she walked again. And she's walked ever since. And she continues to fight, and she continues to not let a diagnosis and a label constrict like her life. And so a huge thank you to that physical therapist that also believed in my mom and, gave her a chance and didn't give up on her. So yeah, my why I became a chiropractor is so I can be that exact same person for other people's moms and for other people's families to give them hope, to give them a chance, to be the one that says like, hey, there is a different way and there is a possibility for you to overcome X, Y, and Z. Because if we were just to look at the traditional diagnoses of things that go on, whether it's ear infections or colic or infertility, and just say like, yeah, well, you can take this medicine and we'll hope that it gets better, but it probably won't. To say like, hey, now God has like instilled this power in you to heal and be whole, and that he never makes a mistake in people's lives and in the creation that is in every single one of us. And there is possibility to unleash that so that you can recover from X, Y, and Z and have wholeness and live a full life to your full expression. That's exactly why I do what I do, is so that no kid has to say like, yeah, I have to live on Ritalin for the rest of my life because I have ADD or I have ADHD, right? So I can't have a normal social life growing up. Or, no husband and wife can ever say like, oh yeah, well, we're infertile and we have these things, chiropractic.
He's starting to preach, yo. Watch out.
Chiropractic has the ability. It doesn't cure anything, and it doesn't cure any of these issues. But what it does do is allow your nervous system and your health to express its 100% full potential that God has created all of us to be. And if that PT wouldn't have seen that in my mom, then who knows where I would be. I have so many memories growing up as a kid of me getting out of the car in the back seat, opening up the trunk and having to winch my mom's wheelchair down and unfold her wheelchair for her so that we could go grocery shopping. And every single day my mom said like, we're just going to keep going. We're going to take the next day at a time because I'm going to get out of here and walk.
That's a surreal story. Like there's no way around, the images you've seen growing up as a kid and really getting to watch the true healing potential of the body unfold in someone's life that obviously has so much meaning to you. And I mean, that's why I'm so inspired by you always, that you're continuing to push on in that direction. What would you say are like the qualities or the emotions you felt as a kid, but also if you can maybe tap into the emotions your mom felt as she was able to overcome that healing process?
Yeah. I would assume that my mom felt like some sort of encouragement, some sort of empowerment. That's why I have my practice is called Empower Chiropractic, is because I want people to be empowered to take command of their own story and to have hope in their own lives. Because a diagnosis that is so limiting, as in like paralysis, is so disempowering.
1,000%.
I mean, I was super young. My mom, I think, got out of the wheelchair within like about 2 years, and then she walked on crutches for quite a while, and then she walked with like a brace around her leg and a cane for a lot of times, and now she walks pretty freely. It's kind of funny. In public, my mom like has to hold on to me so she can like freely balance and stuff. And so a lot of people have often mistaken us for husband and wife or something like that, because my mom looks really young. Mom, you're beautiful. And, you don't look a day past 25, but,
Mama's boy.
Yeah,
through and through
100%.
Ladies, he's taken. Don't get your hearts throbbing. He is a taken man.
Anyway. But like as a kid, it was just kind of a lot of responsibility and a lot of putting other people first, putting my mom's needs before me, going first to open her the door, carrying all the things for her. Just knowing that she was doing the best that she can just to show up for me. And she really did every single time. My mom's never let me down. But yeah, just seeing that as a kid, knowing how much that she showed up for me in with such a big trial and such a big tribulation of trying to walk again and learning how to be ambulatory, was just a lot. And as a kid, I just really felt a responsibility to serve, right? To know that I need to do my part because she was doing my part too. So that's why for people who come into my practice, like I will always show up for you, as long as you show up for yourself. And as long as we have that mutual agreement that, you're going to show up and I'm going to show up, we'll do the best that we can to move forward. So that's my why, and that's what gets me up every single day, whether there's people in here, whether there's people not in here, whether I'm, in the practice, in the gym, whatever. But all of that is to serve people's families.
That's huge, man. I know there may be someone listening that's thinking, oh, well, I don't have that story, so how am I going to find the grit or the determination to get up and go to the gym? I for one, do not have that story. It's an amazing story. It's an amazing why. And at the same time, there's really, when you get to take the top off your own life and really get to kind of look into what you've uncovered, I can 95% of the time guarantee that when you look in, there is a story within you that has yet to be thought about or really looked at in a sense of, this is what's driving me. This is my driving force. I think I mentioned the first time, our first episode last week, that I didn't get into chiropractic to make money. I didn't really know that chiropractors had the opportunity to make money. And it's clear that Spencer also didn't get into it to make money. And so, like we've mentioned multiple times, this isn't a how to start up your business and this isn't a how to start up your business and make money. This is what's driving our business and what we're doing with that. And so getting to hear Spencer's stories is surreal. And I challenge any listener to look back on their life and look to uncover that driving factor, if you will. So Spencer, thank you for sharing. Is there anything else you want to mention in regards to the why behind your what?
No, I feel pretty complete. I mean, I think that everybody, you don't have to have like a big event in your life that shifts your why. It's all about what you uncover, like you said, and until you can uncover that. I mean, I've been developing this story since I was 2 years old. Whether I've been like consciously educatedly doing it or like subconsciously innately forming it, all of it has come together for like this one day. And if you feel like you don't have a why and you don't have a story and you're just kind of in it because, I mean, check in with yourself and you can really peel back those layers, right? Because people don't come to you for back pain. They come to you because something is impeding their story.
1,000%. I heard from Russell Brunson, who's the creator and founder of ClickFunnels. He shares a lot of the person you're most able to serve is the person you were 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have a story like Spencer with his mom, look at who you were 5 years ago and see what did you need? What were the things that, you were hoping or looking to have in your life? And that's typically a good place to start. And that's really where my why is found, is not quite 5 years ago, but when I think it was my second semester in chiropractic school, I thought I was living the life I was meant to be living. I was in a doctorate program. I was in Dallas, Texas, a nice big city. I had countless amounts of friends. I was, always busy, always going out at night, getting pretty decent grades in school. And all of these external things in my life were not fulfilling, and I wasn't living the life I thought I was supposed to be living. So I was living in this duality of two different wants and desires, and I was feeding more of that external flesh, if you will. And over time, that really started to beat down on me. And so I'd been living that way since, undergrad, high school, where I'm an Enneagram type 3, so I'm an achiever at heart. And so I was always looking to get to that next ticket, get to that next goal. And eventually I found myself severely anxious and severely depressed, all the way to the point that I was, admitted into the Parkland Hospital in their psychiatric ward because I was severely depressed. And unfortunately, I was suicidal for a moment, and I couldn't understand why. I was like almost having this guilt of, I'm this 23, 24-year-old guy who comes from a great family in doctorate school. Why am I depressed? And it wasn't until I started to do deeper work after the fact. I went to a psychiatrist after being admitted, and he was constantly trying to push antidepressants. And at the time, I was still new to chiropractic and the holistic health model, but I knew I did not want to take antidepressants or, SSRIs. I wanted to dive into who I think I am, who I want to be. And it was learning more about the holistic health model, and really learning, one, to not allow the negative thoughts in my head to control my daily desires, and also two, to positively affirm strong actions into my life. And so what allowed that to transpire was consistent chiropractic care. My nervous system, through years of physical beatdown, whether that be from football or powerlifting or partying every 3-4 times a week, really started to wear down on my body, and I wasn't in a state of nervous system regulation. And so once I was put back into that parasympathetic rest digest harmonious state for my body, my mind was also able to start to heal. And I can say without a doubt, my life has forever been transformed from one, chiropractic care, but also the chiropractic lifestyle. And that's why I get up every day, is to show up and be that person who is ready to serve those that don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, who are stuck in the cave, don't know that there is an exit. And when they do exit, that there is life to be lived. And that's really what is my driving factor. That's my why, is to be a beacon of light, to be a lighthouse for those lost at sea in a depressed or anxious state. And I know through chiropractic care, both anecdotally and utilizing myself as a case study, that when the nervous system is able to regulate, the mind and body can become one, and you can live the life you're meant to live. Or, as I was saying, I'm a huge fan of Ed Milet, and his book Power of One More really catapulted a whole new mindset into my life, and as well as my practice. And the concept of Power of One More, whether that's you're in the gym and you've done 10 reps, the power of one more, doing that 11th rep, or, power of one more sales call, all these different actions. And I, as a chiropractor, we do this all the time. I viewed it from the chiropractic lens, and that was the power of one more chiropractic scan or chiropractic consultation. And really a big reason I looked at it from this angle was when someone is receiving an adjustment, and why I didn't say the power of one more adjustment, they're already under or in chiropractic care. And so the power of one more consultation is the beginning. That's the initiation, if you will, into chiropractic care. And so when we're doing that, we're able to see the changes start to happen. And if one more person on this planet is able to begin their chiropractic journey or begin their healing journey, then that person's life, in my totally biased opinion, is forever changed. And so that's why it's because of what I've experienced with my depression and anxiety, and having seen that transform is what drives me to go to a networking event or do that one extra Instagram reel or whatever it may be, marketing wise, or even a talk at a coffee shop, whatever it may be. It's because of the concept of one more scan. If we can get one more person into chiropractic care, this world will be a better place. This community will have a larger impact, and forever grateful for listening and reading to the Power of One More before opening the doors.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story, Zach. It's always great to hear those kind of things. It's just good to hear other people's stories, because you might not have a crazy story that is super traumatic that started at the beginning of your childhood, but everyone does have a story, and being able to identify that. Not saying like everyone has trauma that you need to identify. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that you have a story that is inspirational and that is applicable to other people's lives, that are relatable. I know you mentioned like your Enneagram 3, which is like the super high achiever, like chasing success. And it's just funny that, our stories are so different, yet we're very similar as people, and our whys are still very similar to, instill hope into people. I'm an Enneagram 4, so I just like to, kind of do my own thing and be creative. And that's why we're like the Shrek and Donkey duo, but it's great. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, we can dive into the inside joke that is Shrek and Donkey maybe on a later episode. But, and that's not to beat a dead horse, but your why does not have to come from trauma, especially the trauma that Spencer and I have both experienced in our separate lives. But it doesn't hurt repeating Russell Brunson's concept of the person you're most able to serve right now is the person you were 5 years ago. And that's, a really, I hope I'm able to remember that for 15, 20, 30 years into practice, because things are subject to change. And that's the beauty of practices. It's this forever evolutionizing organism. And so as you change, I feel your practice should as well.
Yeah, and that's something that's really good to, go into. I'm just starting right now Tony Ebel's PX startup program. So I'm going to be implementing those systems so I can help more moms, more families, more kids. And, he talks about like connecting to your what and connecting to your why. And he says, moms aren't going to bring their kids in because you have the cheapest product. They're going to bring their kids in and bring their families in because they believe in you. And the way that you get people to believe in you is by connecting to that story. And the way that you connect to your story and the level of depth that you're able to connect to yourself and to your own story is the way that is the level of depth that you're going to be able to serve other people. And so if you're like, oh yeah, I got my story on lock, it's always uncovering that next layer. And it's the same thing with chiropractic care. You think like, oh yeah, well, we have their scans balanced or they're out of pain or whatever. It's not about that. It's about uncovering that next layer. And something that I really like using in some consults with people is this thing that I heard from this psychologist on the Black Diamond podcast. His formula is it's not about X, although we are going to X. It's about Y so that you can see. And that's like really like something that he uses as a sales thing to like really connect to people in sales, but really it's about connecting to people's story. It's a formula to connect to people's story. People aren't going to come in telling you their most like vulnerable secrets, but you can listen underneath what they're saying, what they're actually saying to you. It's not about your back pain, although we are going to work on your back pain. It's really about giving you the energetic capacity and the emotional capacity to be the best father that you can be so you can go home and love on your kids. That's what's the most important. And that's what we do for people.
Exactly. That's some gold right there. And you mentioned, I think we've both reiterated multiple times, if we have any advice, this isn't necessarily like a startup advice podcast. It's more sharing our story. But if we have any advice, I know for me, you could ask Spencer in a couple of group messages we're in, I'm always sharing podcasts I'm listening to or a book I've read. It's what I love. I love music, but when I'm in the car, I can't really listen to music. I'd rather listen to an Audible or a podcast. And so if you do have questions, I appreciate Dustin Scott reaching out, asking where to go. If you have questions like who should I be listening to or who do you listen to, feel free to shoot me or Spencer a DM. We'll gladly share. We are by no means the authority on business or startup, as we're not even a month in between the two of us. So feel free to ask us who we're listening to and who we're getting our motivation from.
Zach, what was the last podcast you listened to?
The last podcast I listened to was Dan Kennedy Magnetic Marketing. It was a episode on newsletters. Dan Kennedy is the godfather, as they say, in direct sales marketing and has touched almost every marketing campaign you've seen, whether that be on Instagram or direct mail, whatever have it be. His stuff is amazing. He's unfortunately passed away, but they've recaptured all his audios and put them into a podcast.
That's awesome.
What about you, Spence?
Last one I've listened to was The Game by Alex Hormozi, his last episode on team building. Yeah, I'm not a big variety guy. I like to stick with one thing. If you guys know me, I read like one book, which is Wild at Heart by John Eldredge.
2 books, but yeah.
Yeah. But like repeatedly. Yeah. I read the Bible. I read Wild at Heart a lot. And I listen to one thing, right now I'm on The Game. It's great.
Yeah, I'm not that way. I need constant stimulation. I'm like a 5-year-old at heart. So I just need to be going. I don't think I have ADD by any means, but definitely need constant new stimulation. And yeah, so we look forward to recording next week. But if you did enjoy this message, please give us a like. If you're on Spotify, smash that subscribe button. And we can't wait to hear any questions y'all have or any comments. Please feel free to share with us. And we look forward to continuing to share our journey and what we're learning throughout the process.
Yeah, and to give you guys some insight and kind of where I see this podcast going and kind of where Zach and I are talking about the podcast going is We're starting with the really foundational things, right? Like just how we got into chiropractic and the decision to make a start, right? And then it's like why we're doing what we're doing. And I think those two things are like the biggest foundation for anything that you do, whatever career you follow, but especially with chiropractic, right? Because if you can't commit to being a chiropractor and opening a practice and you can't connect to your why, then what makes your business attractive? You know, I mean, obviously there are other things about that, but if you want to have a very connection centered chiropractic practice like Zach and I are both aspiring to have, I feel like these are important things. So we can have some other people on, talk about business stuff. Let us know who you'd like to maybe hear or like what topics you'd like us to talk about. That'd be great. But thank you so much for listening to the What Now podcast. I'm Dr. Spencer Dupre. You can hit me up at Empower Chiro TX on Instagram, Facebook, all those kind of things. And then my own personal Spencer Dupre DC. And then you can find Zach, Dr. Zach Thompson within Chiro, all those good things.
Yeah. What? See y'all next week. Peace out.